Hello there. Today we are going to build a League of Legends drafter. Show you how it works. First, take a look at this animation. Pokemon style, gorgeous. We are going to use a lot of view transitions in this video, and I'm going to show you a lot of cool CSS tricks as well. What is a League of Legends drafter? It is a website that lets you pick champions from the game League of Legends. So blue side picks first. I choose Annie, then red side picks two champions, Fizz and Darius. Then blue side picks, then red side, etc. And at the end, the algorithm will tell you which side has the best draft, best champions, best counters, is more likely to win the game, etc. Notice the blue side and red side are animated whenever I pick a champion. View transitions as well. And of course, the star of this video is going to be this grid of champions right there, because I can have this nice effect, names of the champions. When I hover over them, I can filter the champions by role: top lane, jungle, mid lane, ADC, support, with some buttons at the top. I have a search function, so I can search D, A, and I do have Darius and Tryndamere, or F, E, and I have Fizz and Fiora. You can see that Fizz was already selected, so I can't select it again in the draft. I can select Fiora. Notice how the state doesn't move. I can try with TR, and I do have Tryndamere, Tristana, and Maître. And the nice thing is I can filter by role as well. For example, if I click ADC, I now have all the ADC starting with TR, that is Tristana. Jungle, Maître, Tryndamere. Support, there's no support. The CSS is a bit messy, but you see the ID. So this grid is going to be the star of the show. Let me finish the draft by Syndra. Then I have a button here that appeared, compute draft, and the algorithm is going to tell me the winner for this little draft. Let's jump into the code to see how it works. Once again, the code is going to be very simple, not much imports. We are going to use TinyDB to store the draft and the state at any point. And I created a custom list of champions with the champions stored in a dict, their role and their position, but we are going to see this later. We start with initializing the application, very simple stuff. Here we are going to have some utility functions. I will come back to it later. Before request, we take the ID of the user, and we start with the index template. The index template, as you imagine, is very simple. We are going to import DCSS and Datastar for the JavaScript. some icons from Google, and then we are going to have some buttons, and when I click versus AI, I will issue a GET request to game. Stuff that we saw in the previous videos. What happens when the game route is triggered? Well, I need to create a room. So I use a color name. And in this room, I will initialize it with the user ID as the blue side and an empty list of pics. I store the room ID in the session, and I wait for a function, a utility function called Drafter, which will return the HTML for the room. Then I merge it using a view transition. Let's take a look at Drafter. Drafter is going to get the information stored in the cookies to identify the room ID, the room name, the player's name. It will create some HTML for the pics, the side, left and right, with another utility function. It is very simple. We are going to use the pic stored in the database and add them into a grid. And we will specify a view transition for each of them, because we want the blue side to shift from the right and the red side to shift from the left. This is how we get different animation for each side. Because I'm going to use ssc.merge fragments with use view transitions, all view transitions will be triggered when I send the new HTML during the morphing. You can see the different animations. You can see here the data that was retrieved. So the name of this room is going to be Light Sky Blue. Let me show you how it is registered in TinyDB. Very simple. You see Light Sky Blue. The blue is the user ID and the pics are the pics stored. Annie, Fizz, Darius, Kha'Zix, Talia, Timo, Kindred, Olaf, Fiora, Syndra, so everything that we clicked. I clicked a lot on Timo, but it was already selected. The server knew not to add it to the database, but I wanted to trigger the animations for you. This was for the blue side and red side on the left and right of the picker. You notice that we render the name of the champ and its image. I am going to show you something nice with CSS because it is a 6x10 grid and I am not going to load 60 images at once. What happens when I inspect the HTML? You can see, for example, div ID is the name of the legend, Fizz, class is legend nope, nope because it was already selected, and I use Datastar, as you will see, data class, to add the nope class so that it is inverted and the cursor says that you can click it. disable pointer events. And if you look at legend class, you can see, going to not hide it with my head, that the image is actually all the champions at once. What I do is called using a sprite sheet. It is very common in video game development. You load a big image with all the small images you want, and then you crop it where you need. And we are going to see that with Datastar it is absolutely not a problem. Background image, we load this one. We specify the size, the final width and height that we want. And then you see that in the inline style, I said background position minus 288 pixels, 0 pixel. You can see for the other one, minus 248 pixel, 0 pixel. So I crop in different parts so that I can display the champions I want. If we go take a look at the database of champions, this is what the pose was. So pose is their position in the sprite sheet. When I go and retrieve the name of the champion, I also have his position in the sprite sheet, where to crop it to display the right champion. We are then seeing some data show and a long expression. This is going to be used for the filtering. We are going to see this in a minute. First, let me show you how to have the little tooltip with the champion name. It's really simple, it's just a div inside a div with a role equals tooltip. And with the right CSS that you can see right there, we can anchor it to the previous div. This is going to be place self here, anchor center. And we have this nice interactivity. We also use CSS to have hover effects. So champions are a bit desaturated and resaturated when I hover them with a little glow effect from the filter. See, makes for a really nice UX. All right. Let's see how we handle the filtering and search function. To do this, we need to go back to the drafter utility function. So we saw how to create the blue side HTML and the red side HTML. Let's go to the picker, so the grid in the middle. We start by main ID equals main, because we are going to do big morph and we are providing the ID for it. We add the blue HTML and we start with a signal for the user interactivity. This signal is called filter and will allow us to filter based on roles. So filter on top side, jungle, lane, ADC, support. You see the expected behavior. When I click on top, I want to see the top champions. If I click on jungle, I want to see the jungle champions. But if I click on jungle again, I want the filter to be removed. This is extremely easy to do with Datastar. Let me show you. We load every icon as an image. These are going to be clickable images, so we start with loading some web pictures. And then we are going to add a click behavior which is going to change the value of the filter signal. For this we use a really simple JavaScript condition. For example, for top, I am checking, is the value of filter already top? If yes, revert the value of filter back to all, so remove the filter, and if not, then change the value of filter to top. Finally, I use Datastar to add the selected attribute if the filter is top. Adding the selected attribute with CSS can give me the nice option to style it. So you see, there's no mistake here, the top filter was selected. Datastar add the selected attribute to the image, and I give it a red glow, red border, so the user knows that the jungle role is selected. If I click again, filter is back to all. Really nice UX. I do this for every possible role: jungle, mid lane, ADC, and support. I add the input element for the search right here. And then I am going to add the legends, so the squares that you see here. We already saw that we were going to use some tooltips. This is this part right here. And for every champion, we are going to give it an ID, a class of legend, and if the champion was already selected, we add the class nope. It is a simple f string, so I can just use if naming pix.values, else nothing. So that when the champion was selected in this room, it has the nope class, and we can invert it and disable pointer events. We use aria describe by to link it to the tooltip. We are providing the background position, so where to crop in the sprite sheet, like I showed you before, based on the X and Y position of the champion in the sprite sheet. And then we are going to use data show whether we want to show the champion or not. So first, the role. If the value of the filter signal is all, we show the champion. If filter has a value, we directly embed in the element that we want to show it if the filter value corresponds to the role of the champion. Because champions can have multiple roles, I am adding a join here, and we can see, we inspect, for example, Annie will not be the best example, but Graves is just jungle, I guess. He can be played top as well, and you see here in the data show that the condition is either filter equals all, or filter equals top, or filter equals jungle. So if I click on top, I see Graves. If I click jungle, I see Graves. if I click mid lane, I don't see it. We then add another condition, back to the code, for the search function. We use end, which is a common JavaScript syntax to chain Boolean conditions. And we say, well, the value of search has to contain the name of the champion. The value of the signal search was defined directly here in the input with databind. I also use JavaScript functions to lowercase everything. You can see here, even if I put E in uppercase, I still find my champion. Because League of Legends players tend to have their caps lock on. You see here how I can chain conditions and chain booleans with signals and get this really nice behavior, because I can chain a condition on the role, I can chain a condition on the name, and it will be displayed very efficiently. The nice thing is, even if I put mid lane and Anne, you see Annie is still disabled because I already selected it. We are just using the Datastar functions to show or not show an element, but the state of the element was determined by the server. So you have a lot of stuff here. If the champion was selected or not, if the current selected role is corresponding to the champion, if the value of input contains the name of the champion. See that it works really, really well. Just using JavaScript's operations with the AND operator here, the OR operator here, the AND operator here, is enough for the interactivity. The interactivity is baked in the HTML element, and Datastar will take care of the rest. This is real hypermedia. You see in the description of the element, I have how it is supposed to behave. It's supposed to show if these conditions are met. Then Datastar takes care of the rest. We then add the red HTML. Oh, one last thing. I finish on the HTML. We add the red side HTML, the room info. We add compute drafts if all the picks were done. Simple f-string condition. Nothing problematic here. Because we're under the HTML every time, and we have conditions based on state, you are going to see the compute draft button appear here whenever the server wants it to appear. one last thing which is really interesting to show is how do I respond to the user clicking on a legend. Here we are using event bubbling. We are putting the on-click behavior for the legends in the div containing them. This div has an ID of legends, and we see the data on-click function, issue a get request to pick with the target ID. Target means the element who triggered the click function, and ID, its ID. So its name. And because events bubble, if I click on a legend inside this container, the click event will be caught at this point here. And I will get the ID of the element that was clicked. And because I get the ID, I can also get the name of the champion that was clicked. You can see in the lower bar that it issued pick request with the name of the champion. Then we just need to add the behavior when somebody picks a champion. We just get its database ID, make the correct checks, like this, and add the champion to the database. Once this is done, we just call our utility function to get the new HTML, and we use merge fragments to send it with view transitions to trigger all the view transitions on the page. And that's all there is to it. You see that you have a lot of interactivity and a fully functioning app in a few lines of backend code, some smart use of CSS, because Datastar lets you add attributes and class really easily to the elements. If I hover something that was not selected, add a drop shadow to it. If an image has selected, add a border, a red border to it, and a red glow. Well, some really simple database stuff thanks to TinyDB. Here are all the champions that were selected for this video. You can also see that the user ID remained consistent. Some smart use of sprite sheet mechanics, and I will put in the description the link where I learned this technique. It's from a really cool blog by Linrada. I encourage you to check what it does. Some really simple HTML. Well, the sprite sheet is really pixelated. I zoomed a lot. But yeah, that's all there is to it. See how simple that was, and you get a level of UX and interactivity that you may use for a more serious project. You can filter and search with inputs. you see how smooth and efficient this was. Once again, Datastar wins. Datastar is a challenger library in the JavaScript world. I really hope you enjoyed this demo. Please leave a comment if you have any questions, and see you next time.